Okay, we are live. Good evening, everyone. We are all set for the live broadcast stream of today's Health and Human Service Committee meeting at 6 p.m. on HPA-TV, Comcast, and Frontier Government Channels 96 and 6032. It will also be streamed via HPA-TV.org, the HPA-TV Facebook page, and HPA-TV's Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon TV apps. It will also be rebroadcast and made available on the HPA TV YouTube channel. So this evening we have voting member Councilwoman Rossetti. We have Director Arroyo, Director of Health and Human Services, Arroyo. We have Attorney Extraordinaire Damar Osborne. And we also have our broadcast HPA TV. So without further ado, why don't we get started on the meeting? So I'll call to order on the regular agenda 2.1. Oh, okay, let me just introduce voting member Councilman Gale to the meeting. So on the regular agenda 2.1, Councilman Gale, you want to do a mic check?
I've been pretty good lately.
Okay, yep, you sound great.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, 2.1, Mayor Bronen with accompanying resolution confirming the appointment of Christian Corza Christian Corza Godinez to the Commission on Refugee and Immigrant Affairs. I know I messed up that name. I apologize, Christian. But the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. No worries, you were close enough. It's Godinez.
Godinez, okay, all right.
But I appreciate you all for having me tonight. Like Nick said, my name is Christian Corza. I'm a resident here of the city of Hartford, and I've been doing some work this past couple of months with the City Commission on Refugee and Immigrant Affairs. And I'm here tonight in hopes of being appointed so I can formally serve with all the other really great, dedicated commissioners with the city. I think first and foremost, my dedication comes from lived experience. I myself am a first-generation immigrant. I moved to America when I was 6 years old. So that's kind of what drove me to become involved in my community and want to serve on this commission. I know firsthand a lot of the issues that many immigrants and refugees face from the fronts of access and equity to resources. I myself have lived through it, from translating, like my parents' doctor's appointments to my own parent-teacher, student conferences and things of that nature. So it's my goal to be able to, work within the systems and make lives of people in our community, make their lives a little bit better. So I'm here tonight hoping to answer any questions that you might have and looking forward to working for this great city.
Thank you, Christian. Okay, Councilwoman Rossetti.
Well, I say this every time, but it's important to say every time. And my colleagues know what it's going to be, but I really applaud and am humbled and thankful for people who want to serve on commissions in our city. It's just another, way to give back. It's your time. We know how valuable time is. It's wonderful when particularly people have shared experience, but Christian, I personally want to thank you. And I really think this is such an important commission. It becomes more important all the time. And, really, we wouldn't be able to have the insight and the wherewithal to do the things we do without, folks like you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Yes, I also like to introduce my legislative liaison, Lydia Colon, has just joined as well. Councilman Gale, do you any
Sure.
comment, question?
Yeah, sure, thanks. First, let me echo everything that Councilwoman Rossetti said. But a couple of questions. I'm interested. What country did you start from?
Mexico.
From Mexico. Where in Mexico? If I may ask.
Guadalajara.
Oh, very nice. And did you? I'm a little confused. I'm looking at your resume and I see all this Boise, Idaho. So I'm just wondering, did you go to Boise first before coming to Hartford?
Yeah, so I actually, so my family moved to Boise, Idaho, which I know seems kind of random, but you have to believe
when
me
you
when I
live
tell
in
you that.
Hartford, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
what we know about Idaho, potatoes, that's about it, you know?
Yeah, and that's a fair assessment. But I will tell you what drew me to Hartford and to Connecticut. I'm actually a master's student at UConn Hartford in the public administration program, and that's what drew me to the city.
Well, good luck. Good luck in that program. I have one of my children has gone through that program, and we very much appreciate the talent coming out the other end. So we're looking forward to you getting into public administration. So the only other thing that I would add to what Councilwoman Rossetti said is that our door is always open as a city council. So if you find, as a commission, you believe that there are things where council can be helpful, please feel free to reach back to us, and we'll try to oblige.
Thank you so much, Councilman. I appreciate it.
So, Christian, echoing all the sentiments from my council colleagues, I also have a master's in public administration, so I appreciate that. You too, Councilman Gale? I'm just trying to think whether pointed fingers. I don't know. I'm trying to follow. I'm bad at
No, good job. I'm just
okay. But Christian, one of the as a public administration education, one of the words that key words that you said was systems, and so that is like a big word, and you said working with systems. So how do you imagine you being on this commission, and how do you imagine the intersection of working with systems through this commission?
Yeah, I think, thank you for the question. I think there's kind of a common misconception that to make progress, you have to reinvent the wheel. And I believe that there's a lot of opportunity within kind of the existing boundary, what's already set up, right? You can look at the issues and identify, where the shortcomings are. If within a system, right, speaking, the city or whatever resources are already available for, immigrants, refugees, or, families that are newly settling in the area. And I think that there's plenty of opportunity to go within what already exists and build it up to make it better. I don't think you have to, try to reinvent anything or try to, start on some like multi-year long campaign to, accomplish something. I think there's a lot of immediate things that can be done within, administrative levels of advocacy. And that's kind of what I would like to focus on, short term within the commission as well as long term.
Thank you, Christian. And Majority Leader Clark has joined us. Thank you, Majority Leader, who's also a voting member. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, without Councilman Sanchez has also joined us as well. Just barring any questions from Councilman Sanchez, I know they came on after, and Councilman Clark, I'll take a motion.
Move to send this back to council with a favorable recommendation.
Any second? All right. Second. Motion has been made and properly second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Seeing none, this has been moved. We will move this back to the General Council meeting with a favorable recommendation. Thank you, Christian, for your dedication to the city of Hartford and for the systems work that you're going to partake in.
Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
All right, you too. All right, we will be moving on to 2.2 on the regular agenda, which is Mayor Bronen with the company resolution authorizing the city's Department of Health and Human Services to receive funding and execute contracts and contracts amendments with the community, what we know in Hartford as CRT, but the Community Renewal Team. And I believe Director Arroyo, you're here to discuss this?
Yes, thank you. This grant that we're looking to have accepted is a grant that we get from the Department of Housing. It's a 3-year grant that we get. Every year we get slightly over $500,000, the entirety of which goes out the door to CRT, along with additional funds from the City General Fund to fund the operations of the Mckinney Shelter. As you're all aware, the Mckinney Shelter has been operating out of a hotel for the last 2.5 years. and they are renovating the former Days Inn on Brainerd Road to move into there. So this would fund their operations. It's been funding their operations out of the hotel, and now will continue to fund their operations out of what they are calling the Mckinney at the former Days Inn on Brainerd Road.
Thank you for that. I'll open up to my council colleagues. Anyone have any questions? Councilman Gale?
Yeah, thank you. A couple of general questions, if I may, sort of on the whole issue of homelessness. Besides the Mckinney Shelter, the shelters that I'm aware of include South Park, St. Elizabeth or Mercy, Open Hearth,
Immacare.
Is there another one?
Immacare.
Okay, I'm not, all right, so.
That's on Park Street, as well as the family shelter Marshall House by the Salvation Army. Marshall,
okay, is the one, Immacare, is that the one that's in the old Immaculate Conception Church? Okay, so is it the case that only the Mckinney, so-called Mckinney, is funded by the city and the others are not funded by the city?
Yes. So the Mckinney Shelter was a creation of the city of Hartford. My understanding of the story behind it, it was that a gentleman was found deceased outside in the cold, something like 25 years or 30 years ago. And that led to the creation of the Mckinney Shelter. So it is the city shelter run by contract, with a contract through CRT. So CRT is the operating agent of the shelter, but it is the city shelter. The other shelters are private entities that, as Councilwoman Rossetti can attest, also get their funding directly from Department of Housing as well as other funders.
And do you know what the relative census numbers are of, how many we're serving at Mckinney and how many some of these other shelters are serving?
So I don't have all of the numbers for the other shelters handy on me, but for the Mckinney Shelter, they have 78 beds, and throughout a 6-month period, they may serve 140 unique individuals. So people come in, they move out as they're getting housing and working through that process. So really over a whole year period, we're probably serving over 200 individuals, unique individuals, men, through that shelter.
And are they at, do we know, on an average nightly basis, are they at a 75% occupancy, 100%, 50%?
It is my understanding that every shelter in the city at this point in time is at capacity. And we've been at capacity since I've been here, pretty much.
Correct, Director Arroyo.
What do we do? At capacity has to mean that there's some people being turned away. And I'm just wondering what's do we know is happening with the folks that are being turned away?
We know that some people may self-resolve, meaning they'll couch surf, they'll find a family member. We know that there's some people who will stay outside. We do know that there are individuals experiencing homelessness who do not feel that shelter rules are something that they can adhere to, and so choose to remain outside. It's not that they don't want shelter, they just don't want to necessarily have to go to a shelter first. And our system, for the most part, is set up that we go through a coordinated access network. People go through 211 and make an appointment with what we call the CAN, the Coordinated Access Network. Their needs are assessed, and then at that point in time, as shelter beds open up, they're provided those shelter beds, or if they're a renter and just are in need of some assistance, they don't have to necessarily enter the homeless system. In terms of like rental assistance, they don't necessarily have to enter the homelessness system. They are given funding to be able to stay and prevent homelessness in the first place. So there are a number of programs, and Councilwoman Rossetti, if I misspoke or said anything, or if there's more, please add.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, to Director Arroyo's point, and Councilman Gale and others, coordinated access 211 is important in the sense that diversion is key. Diversion is always the first conversation, because if you're diverted from the system, the likelihood of you coming or staying is less. But the bigger point, and this is a discussion we have with some of our colleagues and some of other people in the field, is that people must access the system because, as Director Arroyo pointed out, opportunities are often missed. People can say they don't want to go into shelter. That's their prerogative. But at the same time, if you do not access the system, you may not realize what's available to you. So as much as I hate to sound like someone at this point in my life, it's about the system, you know what I mean? Where my life was to buck the system. It's an important part of this process to make sure you find out. I have seen individuals personally through, my process who maybe, whatever type of veteran they were, they didn't realize what was available to them, or, other kinds of things. So, diversion key, but also making sure that you find out what's available to you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rossetti.
One more question, if I may.
Sure.
And I appreciate the opportunity to sort of have a little bit of a wide-ranging discussion about homelessness. I appreciate it's beyond just dealing with the resolution at hand. But South Park, is that currently functioning at South Park, or has that been relocated at this point?
It is functioning at their location right now. I know that they are in process of, and have been in process, working with development services in the city to identify a location that's better suited for them. They're in an old church, it's not conducive to pandemics, also in need of repair. So I know that they're looking for a new location. Immicare did go through a round of repairs, so they're staying put. They have a filtration system. They were under renovation during COVID.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Gale. Majority Leader Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Arroyo, good evening. Just a quick question. You touched upon the CAN network. So for Mckinney Shelter, is there opportunities to additional funds through the CAN network or the Community Action Agency network that CRT is a part of?
So they get funding from DO, is pass-through funding basically from us, from the state, which makes up the bulk of their budget. And then the remaining approximately $350,000 comes from the city, both general funds, but also CDBG, non-ESG and ESG funds. So there's that. At this point in time, the renovation of the Days Inn, the purchase of the Days Inn and the renovation was funded by federal dollars that the city applied for in order to make health and safety improvements, as well as to make the shelter more friendly to individuals that identify as transgender. And so there are different funding sources that come through, and Mckinney, in the new iteration as the Mckinney, they will be bringing in different programs that may also bring in funding sources, but those funding sources would be specific to those programs. We fund the staff that are there to ensure the safety and the doing casework and case management for the clients that will reside there temporarily.
Thank you. Chair, I have one more question.
Sure, Majority Leader, the floor is yours.
Through you. And Mckinney Shelter is still a men's shelter?
Yes, it is still a men's shelter.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other question? Councilman Sanchez, any comments, questions? All right, just a quick.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Arroyo, as it relates to the HEART team, I know the credible responder or some types of the programs of the HEART team are differential response to 911, is run by CRT. Is there any interplay or any intersectionality between the HEART program and homelessness that they encounter on phone calls and potential spaces with the Mckinney Shelter?
I will say that the HEART team does interact with individuals that are experiencing homelessness in our city. We have gotten calls. I don't oversee that program directly. That's under the oversight of Patricia McIntosh, but she and I do work closely together. So if we have reports of individuals who seem to be in distress and that appear to be experiencing homelessness, we do engage the HEART team.
Mhm.
So sometimes those reports come to me directly, sometimes they go to the mayor's office, sometimes they go directly to Patricia. And so we're able to reach out to individuals, and they will help that individual if they're not in the system to, reach out to 211, connect with services that CRT or others may be providing in an attempt to assist them in receiving housing. So there is a connection. It's not a formal connection in that we have this formal partnership between the Mckinney Shelter and CRT in that respect, or the HEART team in that respect, but it does help that CRT runs both programs and administers both programs and are able to help individuals that they might encounter through the HEART teamwork access other services that are available through the city and through private agencies.
Thank you, Director. I think, to go on this systems theme that we're having, creating a pipeline to services, when we can. I think it's always beneficial for programs, and collaboration is always better than not doing collaboration. With that being said, I don't see any other questions or comments. Majority Leader, did you have another? Your hand is still raised.
I'm sorry, no, I don't have another question, but
Okay.
I'll move for a favorable recommendation back to council.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. So we have a favorable recommendation and a second, properly seconded. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed or abstain? All right, seeing none, so move. We will move this back to council with a favorable recommendation. All right, moving on to item 2.3, accompanying resolution authorizing the city to receive grant funding from the state Connecticut Department of Public Health. Director, the floor is yours.
Sure. So this is per capita funding. The state has a formula in statute that determines by population a specific dollar amount that the State Department of Public Health is to provide certain local health departments. You have to have a full-time health director, and you have to have a threshold number of residents, or a population threshold that you have to meet. And so this is our funding that we receive on a yearly basis. The amount increased during the pandemic and has remained at that higher level. This particular grant funds portions of some positions in the department, as well as one position that is required to do work that we're statutorily held to around lead. So it funds primarily that position. It funds a piece of our public health emergency preparedness coordinator, and it also funds a piece of one of our Ryan White program directors, who's overseeing the statewide work, or a state grant that we received to do regional work on through the Ryan White program. Other things that it may fund, it funds the purchase of flu vaccines that we provide for free as a stopgap measure for those residents who may not make it or may not have insurance. We provide funding to the North End Farmers Market to allow them to continue that effort. We provide a small amount of funding to a community garden as well in the North End. And then we have funding for social media outreach and things of that nature. We also will be using some of this funding, as we have in the past, to look at sort of what kind of campaigns we can do around health. It has some flexibility to it within a certain parameters. As long as we're meeting one of the 10 essential public health functions, we're able to use that funding. But for the most part, it is really around personnel to fill in gaps that we might have. People's certain programs might not provide enough funding for a staff person or fully fund their salary. This helps us cover the rest of that salary and allows programs to continue to function. It is a yearly grant.
Thank you, Director. Any questions from my council colleagues? All right, Councilman Gale.
Yeah, if I may, one question. I'm interested. When you talk about this being per capita, I take it that means it's based on the number of people that we have in Hartford, and I'm just wondering, as a result of the census, did our per capita go? I know the money went up, but did our actual number of people go down?
Yes. So we were in the 2010 census. think it was near 124,000 individuals they were funding this for, and now we're getting funded for slightly below 122,000. But because of the increase in the actual money per person that they provided us, it had a negligible impact. Now, if it had stayed the same, then it would have been an impact that we would have probably, for about 2,000 people, we're probably looking at $3,000, probably closer to like $3,800 that we would have lost on the grant. We had about I believe at the time it was $1.80 per person. I don't remember all the numbers since it's changed over the past 2 years, but it was around that amount.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Other council colleagues, any questions? Oh, hold on 1 second. Majority Leader?
Move for favorable recommendation back to council.
Second.
All right, a motion has been made and properly second. I'm sorry, it's just thrown up. All right, motion has been made and properly second. Any comments or questions? Any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? All right, seeing none, all right, motion has been made and the agenda item will be moved back favorably to general council meeting. All right, and the last item on the agenda is 2.4, Mayor Bronen with the accompanying resolution authorizing the City of Hartford's Department of Health and Human Services to receive funding from and execute related contracts with the Village for Families and Children. Director?
Great. So we have been working with the Village for Families and Children for a number of years now. This grant is around home visitation in the city. So about 3 years ago or so, the Office of Early Childhood, which had been funding a home visitation program called Nurturing Families program, had decided to cancel everyone's contracts and rebid everything again. And so in that process, we worked with the village to develop a proposal that included all of the individuals or organizations that had been funded by the Nurturing Families program through the Office of Early Childhood to come together and actually create a system, an ecosystem of home visitation. It would allow us to offer different programs, would allow us to better serve our community members by making sure that they were attached to a program that better served their geography, potentially had a better match between backgrounds and things of that nature. And so we were funded for that program. The village is the contract holder with the Office of Early Childhood, but as a city that chose not to receive funding to do home visitation, to actually have home visitors, we ended up deciding that we felt we would be best positioned to take on the contract around data management. And so it helped the individual groups feel comfortable about sharing the data and partnering together. And so we basically manage the data system. So everyone that is in this network that's created called the Stronger Families, Stronger Futures Network puts their data into the same data system. Over time, as we get more data, we're looking to follow outcomes more closely. If a family moves out from one program, but we connect with them later on to bring them into another program, we'll be able to see the impact of the programs on that family and be able to follow them. The idea is that ultimately over time, we can have a robust database that allows us to better identify what programs work for what communities and how.
Thank you, Director. I open up the floor to my council colleagues. Any questions or comments from my council colleagues? All right. Director, that means you did a great job explaining that you left no questions. Oh, Majority Leader.
No, she did a great job once again. Move back to council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion has been made and properly second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, aye. Any opposed or abstain? All right, seeing none, we will send this back to the general council meeting favorably. All right, so that's the end of our agenda for this
Through you,
meeting.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
And
Councilwoman.
again, it goes without saying, thank you, Director Arroyo. I know it's been, again, a long couple of years and things don't get easier, but we always, I don't want it to go without being said, appreciate your thoughtfulness, dedication, and commitment to the city of Hartford, its residents, and everything you do. So thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. I
Well-
feel very honored to be able to serve the residents of Hartford. I love my job.
Yes, and you do it well. So with that being said, I will add, we're looking for our next Health and Human Service meeting to be hybrid. As one of the committees, I was approached and agreed. So for everyone watching, our audience watching, we will be looking to go hybrid next month. So thank you to Lydia for quarterbacking that effort. And we look forward to seeing you then. Not saying that anybody here has to come into City Hall, but just saying it'll be an option. Okay. And with that being said, we'll adjourn the meeting. Everyone have a great evening.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Okay. All right. Bye.